So first up, we have Meera. Hello, Meera. Are you there?
Hello.
Hi. Hi. So you're going to be talking about pain. Peace or pain is an option. I think that was the name of your workshop. So I would love to know more about you, Meera. Who are you? Who are you, and where do you live? Where are you from? And what are you going to be sharing with us?
Yeah, well, I'm Meera, and I'm from the UK, a place called Hertfordshire, which is very near London, actually. And I live there with my husband, Stephen, and one of my children actually now. The other one's at university in Brighton. And I also live here with my 2 cats. And yeah, for me, I'm very passionate about sharing this topic. And it kind of covers every aspect of my life, actually. And it really comes back to focusing on joy and peace rather than trying to get rid of the pain. And, for me, actually, one of the things that's been coming up recently, and to let you know a little bit more about me, is I kind of had stopped doing anything in my life. It's like I'd stopped doing all my hobbies, and I love art. I love reading. I've developed to really love a great love now for gardening and everything that entails. And actually now I'm grateful that I can actually do that. I can actually get on and do the gardening that I want to do without being so hindered by the health condition I have and by the high level of pain that I used to experience. So yeah, that's me.
Awesome. Lovely to see you. And Meera, tell me a bit more about, can you recall your first experience of pain? Like how that felt and how you dealt with that?
I actually can't remember a first experience of pain. I think I was always in pain. I don't actually remember a time when I was fit and healthy. Actually, I had a childhood where I was termed a sickly child. So I think I kind of went from one illness to another. So I had a lot of time off school because of that. And that kind of extended on to then, issues with my posture after a fall when I was 12 years old, and I landed on my coccyx, and that kind of started off a whole new level of things. So that possibly was the first time when I got into pain, but I remember it before that. Actually, it's like it defined my life. Either being ill or being in pain defined my life. I didn't really know what it was like to not have pain, actually. And so I got very, very good at bearing pain really well, and I could tolerate quite high levels of pain. And I actually used to wear that as a badge of honor, going to the dentist. Well, my dad was the dentist, and I could have a filling without having an injection because I didn't like the needles. And so for me, I can't even remember what it was like to have started out my life without pain. I know what it's like now, but I didn't. That's something that I learned over time.
And how's your relationship to pain changed now? I mean, when I look at you, I see, just a radiant, beautiful woman in front of me that doesn't look like she's in pain. But do you feel pain now?
I'm in no pain at the moment, but it's always possible. For me, it's a moment by moment choice. And so I've changed my relationship with pain so radically that even though I have the pelvic condition that used to cause me really high levels of pain, all-consuming pain, actually, even though I still have that condition, the pain isn't there anymore. And really, for me, a lot of the time we call pain, it's actually suffering. It's a secondary experience where it's a reaction. There's a story wrapped around a physical sensation. And so because I'm very well aware of that now, of that mechanism, I don't tend to experience any of the suffering. But for example, if I was to cut up a carrot, and I did this the other day actually, and caught my finger with a knife, then yes, that hurt. But for me, it's come back down to a physical body sensation that I'm aware of, but it's neither painful nor not painful, hot or cold. There's just no label on it. So I'm aware of it, but I don't, there's no suffering involved.
So you treat it like a thought. So when it comes up as a thought, and then you don't, I think you were saying you don't attach a story to it. So you don't, it goes from thought, like the thought is when it just arises, pain. It's just pain. And then what causes the suffering is the thinking.
Yeah, for me,
of the pain.
typically, if I do get to the point where any pain is experienced, even though it is very fleeting these days, there is always some thinking around that. So as I recognize that and the thinking falls away, so the experience, it's like I go from one operating mode to another. So I'm in a world of pain and suffering. For me, the best example I had of this was when the first time I recognized it was possible with anything and everything was when I had broken ribs. And I went from that pain and suffering into like another operating mode where everything freed up. And so I had more mobility as well, because broken ribs can be very winding. You almost like you freeze and you don't want to move. And so I was kind of like in this very stuck experience. And then with exploring, just allowing the sensations to be there and witnessing them, then it's like I slipped into another operating mode where everything became light and easy and there was no suffering anymore. So it's a moment by moment choice for me. And yeah, there's always a dialogue that tells us how we're experiencing the body sensation. And then this works for emotion as well. So it's, you know, if you have anxiety or sadness or loneliness or anger or any emotion that is debilitating, it's the same mechanism actually. There's a dialogue going on about a feeling, a physical sensation. And when that dialogue, well, actually for me, when I just see the dialogue, it falls away by itself now because I'm quite practiced at it. And then the experience just lightens up. It's just, and it's not like, in a way, it's not like it's not painful. It's just, there's nothing there that hooks my attention. So I can just then go back to whatever I'm doing right now and immerse myself in this moment. Yeah, doing whatever task there is to do, whether it's work or play or or whatever I'm doing.
Yeah, I mean, there is, I mean, undeniably there is so much suffering. It, you know, appears to be so much suffering in the world. If you're not someone that has a practice or some kind of skill to help you just bring back yourself into the moment, you know, and just check in with yourself, you can get completely whisked away with human suffering as well as your internal suffering as well. And, you know, how can you stay positive in such circumstances as that? You know, we're surrounded by negativity, we're surrounded by human suffering, we're surrounded by, you know, opinions and wars and you name it, it can go on and on and on. How can we stay positive in such a crazy, chaotic, you know, negative world, so to speak?
Yeah, well, for me, it's not actually staying positive anymore. For me, it's actually getting curious about the experience that I'm having right now. Because then that opens up a completely different perception of what's happening. And it also opens up solutions. It opens up a way forward that is more seamless and fluid and easy. So I think in the past, actually, I would have been that person that was trying to stay positive, putting on a mask, putting on a brave face, and actually suffering immensely inside. And for me, I've come away from that experience. I don't actually want to stay positive anymore because there's a greater experience available for you in just being present now. So for me, it's finding a tool to be present, whether that's guided or whether that's something that you practice by yourself. Yeah,
I mean, there's definitely a playfulness about being curious. It causes some kind of expansion, doesn't it? You know, I think when you say, oh, I have to be positive, you're kind of limiting yourself to an experience. And when you turn that around and try and be more playful, then it tends to be more infinite. There tends to be more possibilities for you to, you know, to play with that curiosity, to be in awe of what comes to you, whether it's a feeling, whether it's an emotion, whether it's something that you've labeled from a belief system in the past. I think definitely, yeah, you know, the more curious we get about our life experiences, the more it opens us up to more possibilities, to more playfulness, you know, dare I say, to more understanding of what's going on. But I think that's, again, that could be limiting yourself as well. Yeah, I mean, certainly, there's an example that I experienced today with my daughter. She was sick for the first time in her life. She's throwing up. Sorry, everyone, but she's throwing up, and for her, it's like she has no idea what's going on. So I called my mom. What do I do? You know, and she's like bursts into tears, suffering right there. You know, she took on all her pain. I'm like, all right, bye. So I played a game with her today with Anna. I said, okay, come on, let's see. You know, let's see how many times you can throw up today. And she started to enjoy the feeling of, you know, noticing how a body feels, noticing what's happening inside a body, you know, noticing what comes out of the body. And she didn't suffer as such. She was just very curious about what was going on, you know, very curious. And it was definitely just creating a space for her to inquire, you know, to ask questions, what's that? And then we could talk about the human body, and we just made it a lot more interesting for her. So is this something that you'll be teaching us? Not about like throwing up is fun, but, you know, what can we expect from your master class? I mean, what is it you're going to share with us? How can we kind of like be
yeah, throwing up's not on the schedule. No.
Oh, come on.
But, you know, what I'm going to do is take everybody through the process step by step. So, you know, initially just exploring what we are aware of now, you know, so we can kind of land in this moment and break it down a little bit and start to pay attention and get curious and so we can see what is happening. And then we can kind of move on and start to explore what is causing the suffering, so that we can start to recognize it initially. And in recognizing it, change happens a little bit just by that step. And then progressing further to what else you can do, what else you can explore. And there's lots of little easy exercises. Each episode is going to have an exercise. So I'm guiding you through it as an experience, because it's great to have the theory, and we need to do that as well so that we understand what is happening. But we're going from the theoretical understanding and into the experience of it, because that's the only way that it makes sense for people, to actually have that direct experience of changing how you're experiencing, you know, body symptoms, sensations, and also emotions, you know, how that feels. There's always somewhere in the body that we feel it, for example. So it's a very similar mechanism. So I can work with people, whether it's emotional or physical pain, and also mental torment as well. You know, if the thoughts are hounding you and governing every part of your experience and you feel totally lost in them, you know, it's actually the same. It's the same process. So we can just explore it little bit by little bit and build on. Each episode is going to build on the understanding and build on the experience that you can have and explore. So part of that, when I ran this course before, I found having a Telegram group was really useful, so that people could share what they were noticing, putting into practice the homework that I'll give you each week, each session actually, because there's going to be 2 each week. And doing it as often as 2 a week, I think, is it. You start to make explorations and discoveries, and then you can build on it much more readily if it's not too big a gap in between. And then that just gives you that ongoing exploration and being able to talk about it with other people, share what you're experiencing and asking questions. You know, when you have an experience, sometimes people need a little bit of clarification. So yeah, it'll be a very interactive workshop.
Do you find that there's kind of like a common thread? You know, everyone comes with some kind of pain, but is there a certain pain that's more common than others, or is it just all types of pain that comes through that people report on?
Yeah, I've had people with all sorts of different types of pain get in contact with me, actually. And it doesn't matter what pain you have, whether it's physical, any part of your body. The mechanism is the same for all of it, as it is for emotional and mental pain too. So you know, really we're talking, when we say pain, peace or pain, it's peace or suffering. You know, you can still experience pain, but the suffering element is surplus to requirements, if you like. And I help guide people to start to recognize what they're doing so that they can stop doing it. And it's not something that you have to try to do. It's just in the recognition of it, often actually with the things that I guide people through, so they start to see what's going on and how differently they can experience. For example, at the last course, I had a lady who's quite a lot older and kind of had decided that she was older now, and she just had to put up with these aches and pains. It was just part of her life now. But she was very playful and willing. So in the exploration and some of the exercises and tips and hints and homework that I gave them to play with, and she applied it at the bottom of a set of stairs, and then she walked up the stairs in absolutely no pain, and she was, you know, completely blown away by it, because she didn't think that was possible. And you know, that's what we're going through with this course, is like everything that we think is impossible, you know, let's see what is actually possible. Because when you start exploring what's possible rather than trying to get rid of something, it's easier, it's simpler, it's a faster and more enjoyable process as well. Actually, it brings up lots of insight and starts to allow people to recognize that no matter what is going on in their body or their life, there is no need to suffer at all in any moment.
Beautiful. And everything that you teach is all tried and tested from yourself?
Yeah, and you know, like the last course I did was actually a couple of years ago now, actually, and so the difference, I've been working more one-to-one or in smaller groups since then. And I've also written a book which was a very growthful experience, because, you know, when you start writing about your experiences, it is like the world comes up and goes, are you sure? Are you sure? And throws stuff at you just to check that you have actually changed your relationship with it. And so, yeah, I've got to explore more and more to see what is going on in my own experience. And then also sometimes when people present with me, they're very locked into the experience of pain, and they kind of hope and they want it to change, but they don't really believe it's possible. And so then I've just started to be playful, and sometimes in the moment something just comes to me to get them to play and explore with, when the 2 or 3 other exercises I've tried haven't worked. And so I'm continually discovering ways to help people just to become that much more alert and present and willing to actually explore rather than thinking about exploring, because that's often what we do, is we check in with the mind, and obviously that's based on past experience. So if you haven't experienced pain fading away, disappearing, or becoming less, then you kind of think, well, no, it's not possible. So yeah, it helps to be playful and continually being willing to ask, well, but what is possible right now? And that can make quite a difference.
Yeah. I mean, it's very much, you know, some people, I know I have in the past, I've identified with pain and it's become part of my life. You know, it's at times it's been very difficult to let go of that, because there's just this fear of what's behind that. If I let go, if I don't have this story anymore, I've got nothing to grasp onto. You know, what advice would you have for people who may be going through that mindset at the moment? You know, that it's my story and this is all I know, this is all I've lived with, you know, who have a little fear of the unknown.
Yeah, for me, it's, I think the first step is just hope it can be different. You know, just like let go of any idea of what is possible and what's not possible, so that you can actually explore brand new in this moment. And it actually doesn't matter how strong the story is, how strong the resistance is, how well used you are to the experience of pain, because that was my experience. So I know that you can go from that being so immersed in the experience and resisting and not knowing how you're resisting, there being a story and you don't even know what that means, It doesn't matter. It's still possible to go past it, but you've got to want it, and you've got to be willing to start to apply and try different things, you know, because if you always do the same thing that you've always done, then you'll always get the same results. And I think for me, I think there was just some deep knowing within me that there was more to life that was possible than the experience of suffering that I was having. And so I just kept pushing and pushing and pushing to go beyond the experience I was having, so that I can have a different experience. And that got more playful and creative once I found the practice of ascension as taught by the Bright Path Ishayas, because that opened up a world of choice that I didn't have access to before. We just need to be shown how to make the choice.
And that's the key, isn't it?
Willing to make it.
Yeah, that's the key. It's coming back to the curiosity, you know, asking the questions. There's got to be more to this. There's got to be more to just waking up every day and feeling not so well, and, you know, just going through the same motions every day. There must be a point where you know, if you want the change, you ask yourself those questions, and suddenly the answers come to you, whether it's through something like this, you know, if anyone feels any resonance to this, you know, just that little tingling inside of your heart or inside your being that, yeah, I want to change. I'm done with this. I want something different in my life. I want to be free of this suffering, this pain. And, you know, how wonderful that we have you that's been through that. You have your experience. You've tried and tested everything. And you're here now, able to help and be of service to those in need of it in this moment. So, yeah, I mean, it's awesome, very inspiring. And do you have anything that you can like give us a little taster? You know, any practical tips that we can go away with and just have a play with?
Yeah. For me, my experience changed when I hit rock bottom. When I got to the point where I didn't want to live anymore at all, actually. And I think in that moment I surrendered. And so that opened me up to exploring, actually. And so for me, I think one of the things that's really helpful for people is to pretend you don't know. Pretend you're an alien from outer space and you have absolutely no idea what is going on in your body, what your body is going to be like in the next moment, because that opens us up to being willing to look again, you know, because if we keep subscribing to what the mind tells us about our body, then we're going to keep having the same experience. So we've got to get to that point where we pretend we don't know for a moment, so we can suspend the mechanism of the mind, so that we can actually step outside of that and then start having a direct experience of exploration, so you can see what is going on for you. And one of the first ways, because like for me, suffering happens because of resistance. We're resisting what's happening, and we often don't know that. It's an unconscious process of resistance that we're really well trained at. Like we've been training our entire lives to resist. And so often it can be frustrating, because we know once we start to know that, so that's the first step really, is like resistance to what is causing your suffering. And so the first step really within that is to start to identify the resistance, start to notice that you are resisting, and you know you're resisting if you're suffering. If there's any friction or pressure within you, any dislike, any irritation, there's some resistance within you. And so just acknowledge it. Just acknowledge that you are resisting, and start to explore them down. And within that exploration of how you're resisting, you'll actually find you stop resisting so much. So that would be the first tip for me.
That's a great one. That's great. I'll certainly be trying that one for sure. Yeah, I mean, the resistance, it's very, there's a big contrast between resistance and when everything flows. You know, I know for me, it's a very uncomfortable feeling. Everything feels tight, you know, and very tunneled, tunneled vision, and I can't seem to grasp anything else that's going on around me. And it's all about me, my body, my feelings, my emotions. So yeah, I think that's a beautiful tip to start with for everyone, and certainly one to play with. And probably a lot of us will be surprised just how much resistance we have, when we start physically writing it down and it's there in front of us. So yeah, so thank you for that. That's awesome. Yeah. Awesome.
You're welcome.
Is there anything else you want to add, or anything else that wants to come through?
Yeah, I just want to let people know that anything is possible. Anything is possible. And I think when we approach life from that place of anything is possible, then it kind of opens us up a little bit more, doesn't it? So that we can actually discover what is possible beyond what we believe is possible. And nobody needs to suffer. That for me is probably my purpose in life, is to end suffering for everyone, because I know it's not necessary, and that might be a little bit frustrating if you are really struggling with pain, physical, emotional, or mental. It can. I know I've felt frustration so many times when I was introduced to the idea that it was a choice, and from my very first experience of when pain fell away on a Bright Path retreat, that then gave me the experience. So for me, you need to start to learn what's possible in your own experience, and it really helps to be guided. The guidance, I think, then opens up the actual experience, so you can see what's possible rather than what your mind thinks is possible or impossible. Yeah. Go for it. If you want to go past the pain that you're in now, go for it. It's absolutely possible, and I'm more than happy to help you do that, because I don't want anyone suffering. Not necessary anymore.
It's not, and it's so comforting to know that there's someone such as yourself that you understand. You've been there, and I know that's helped me a great deal in my past, where someone, just those words, I understand, I know how you feel, and that could just open up the door for you there. So again, if you feel any resonance to what Meera has said today, I mean, it's a huge topic, a huge one, pain and suffering. Wow. Probably everyone needs to sign up for this one. And if you know anyone, please let them know, because this could be the thing that they've been looking for. It just needs either yourself to make that decision, or you to help someone else make, just be aware that there's a choice. There's a choice. But thank you so much, Meera. Thank you so much for your honesty, your courage to just be very open with us all. And it's been really lovely to talk to you and connect with you again.
Thank you, Rajni.